Welcome to Midnight Whispers, where the night doesn't whisper, it warns. As you lie in the safety of your bed, imagine footsteps in the forest, eyes watching from behind the trees, and truths too terrifying to ignore. These aren't just stories, they're echoes from the shadows, real accounts whispered under breath by those who survived. So close your eyes, but don't fall asleep too fast. The darkness remembers. What if the safest place you know, your own home, suddenly became the stage
If you're
for
still
your
awake,
deepest fears?
thank you for
braving
many,
the dark
the
with
very
us
walls
tonight.
that promise
On Midnight
solace
can
whispers.
become the backdrop
If
for
these stories
inexplicable
stirred
phenomena,
something in you,
turning
a
the
chill,
familiar
a
into
memory,
the utterly
a
alien.
shadow,
Don't forget
this
to
happened
like
a
this
couple of
video,
years ago,
subscribe
and it
for
still
more
makes
true
me
horrors,
hesitate
and
before
ring the
opening
bell
the
so you
bathroom
never
door
miss
at
a
night.
whisper from the night.
I grew up in this
Sleep
house.
tight. My parents passed
can.
it down to me. It's nothing fancy, just a split level with creaky floors. That bathroom, in particular, always felt off, like the air was thicker, colder, but you chalk it up to bad insulation and move on. One night, around 2 a.m., I'd just gotten back from a business trip. Dead tired, half asleep, lights off. I pushed open the bathroom door. But this time, someone was sitting there, on the closed toilet lid, their back to me. At first, I thought it was a trick of my eyes, but no. There was a figure, shoulders, hair, even the faint outline of hands resting on its knees. A woman, still as stone. I didn't say anything, just stared. She slowly turned her head, but not all the way. Just enough that I could see the side of her face. But there was no face at all. No eyes, no mouth, no nose. Just a blank, empty stretch of skin. I must have hit the light switch, because the room flooded with light, and she was gone. Completely. No sound, no movement. My heart pounded. I checked the whole house. Every door was locked, alarm set. Nothing was disturbed. What really gets me is that I didn't feel afraid at first, not until she turned. There was something familiar about her posture, like I'd seen her before. And here's the kicker. The next morning, trying to convince myself it was a dream, I went back into the bathroom, and the toilet seat was down. I live alone. I never put the seat down. It's been 2 years. I still live here, but I avoid that bathroom. I'm afraid of seeing her again, maybe even realizing I do recognize her. It still messes with me. Have you ever felt truly alone, only to realize you weren't? Another person I know, when they were about 15, was home alone, trying to sleep. Their parents' house had wooden floors, making footsteps easily audible. They started hearing noises, like someone was walking around. Confused and scared, they pulled the blanket over themselves, leaving only the back of their head exposed. The sounds kept getting closer. Suddenly, a cold air blew towards the back of their head, as if someone was breathing on them. They silently freaked out, thinking a crazy person had broken in. The breeze-like breathing continued for some time, then stopped. They heard something move out of their room, and the sounds vanished. They always slept with their door closed, but the next morning, it was open. They didn't sleep properly for weeks. Their parents checked. Neighbors' cameras showed nothing. There was definitely something in that house, and it still creeps them out to this day. What would you do if your child's favorite toy started moving on its own? This is what happened with a child's art project. The googly eyes on a clay mug started to move. This mom watched them move from left to right and back again, at one point stopping in the middle, as if looking back at her. It sounded absurd. It felt absurd. But those black dots were moving. The mug was made by her daughter, painted and kilned, with the eyes glued on. Her daughter didn't notice. The mom felt for vibrations, any explanation, but the obscure way those circles drifted, then went back and forth, ruled out a bumped table. It made her incredibly anxious. When the dots floated back down, She stuffed cocoa packets in the cup and put it in her daughter's backpack, hoping it would stay at school. But today, she brought it back. Caught off guard, she blurted out, "No, Taylor, why did you bring that home again?" Her daughter's eyes lit up, thrilled. This wasn't the first time their daughter had brought home an item with something attached to it. It was as if spirits were attracted to her. The first time, it was a stuffed goose from a state fair. The night it came home, things started happening. Footsteps in other rooms. The goose randomly appearing in different places, even after consciously being put away. At first, it was on the floor, then the couch, then tables. One night, she crawled into bed and felt the unmistakable prickly fur of the stuffed goose under her legs. She screamed, woke her partner. She marched that goose directly outside to the trash. As she walked out, she saw her partner in the living room, even though she had just seen him in bed. That realization made her physically sick. She ran past him to trash it. Her partner followed, asking if she'd just come from upstairs. She said yes, found the goose, hated it, threw it out. He looked pale, his eyes filling with tears. I was in bed, but I heard your voice, calling my name from downstairs, he said, telling me to come downstairs. He knew deep down she was in the shower upstairs, but the voice was so convincing, he followed. He thought he saw her turning the hall corner into the living room, but couldn't find her. He almost had a heart attack when she came running up behind him with the goose. It was a draining experience for both of them. She told him all the crazy stuff with the goose, thinking that was where the energy came from. The mug is still on the kitchen counter. She tried moving it, but something inside said, nope. She can't keep it, can't throw it out easily, not like the goose. Her daughter made it. She saw her face light up when she joked about the other mugs being jealous. She knows how this starts. Small things, subtle shifts, feelings you try to ignore until you question your own reality while your partner insists nothing is wrong. She'd rather deal with a disappointed 6-year-old than open that door again. The longer it stays, the more she can feel it. Not just the eyes, but something else, aware of her, waiting for her to slip up. The mug has to go quietly, carefully, before whatever's inside decides to stay. This kind of unsettling presence can extend beyond the confines of a home. A woman experienced her new pearl necklace behaving strangely. It was placed in a vanity drawer that she would find fully opened again and again after consciously closing it. The incidents didn't stay isolated to the pearls. One night, her boyfriend was on the porch, freezing. He'd gone inside and made eye contact with someone hiding under the bed. He thought it was her until the figure quickly crawled backward, disappearing impossibly into the wall. A few days later, after showering, she felt cold fingers grab one of her ankles. The cold grip was surprising. Its release was as sudden as its grab. It felt like kicking out of something, not kicking something away. She looked down. Nothing was there. The pearls hadn't been an obvious culprit until she wore them. She swore it felt like it was snagged from behind, pulling up at her neck. She developed a rash resembling burn marks where the pearls touched. The welts wouldn't clear up. The pearls were tossed back into the drawer. One day, the necklace was missing. Footsteps would trail around the apartment when she was alone. The apartment felt gloomy and depressing. She started waking up with migraines after extremely realistic and scary nightmares, screaming in her sleep. Her boyfriend's sleep was interrupted too. Neon signs in the living room flickered together, even though they had no settings for it. A small glass baseball glove sign fell off its hook, crashing. The hook was still in the wall. It would have had to be lifted straight up. They dreaded being home alone. Later, they adopted a lab mix puppy, Biscuits, to brighten the mood. One night, Biscuits was whimpering in the bedroom. his whimpers becoming strained. She found him under the bed, his neck tangled. When she freed him, she found a strand of round pearls wrapped around his neck. She pulled biscuits out and threw the necklace onto the bed. She told her boyfriend her theory about the pearls, that they needed to get rid of them. He agreed. He went to the pawn shop, but she told him not to pawn or sell them, just take them back or throw them away. Something felt wrong about giving the demon to someone else. She has no idea what he did with them. But everything stopped. Everything went back to normal. These domestic disturbances are chilling, blurring the lines between the familiar and the terrifying. But what happens when the echoes of the past, or even the future, reach out and touch your life directly, far beyond the confines of your home? Imagine having conversations with someone you know is gone, or seeing a figure that foretells an inescapable fate. Are these visitations or warnings from beyond? My wife, back when she was my girlfriend in the 92nd, worked at a hospital built in the 1802nd, which later became a palliative care facility. Some older residents wandered the beautiful grounds. After a few weeks of picking her up, I came to know Ken, an octogenarian in low care. He'd often wait for me on a church pew, full of life, sharing vivid stories from his younger years, especially his weekly golf games. I wasn't into golf, but his detail was astounding. I started leaving earlier just to chat with him. Occasionally, he'd be in the hospital, and I missed our talks. After 9 months, it changed. One Friday, he was back on the pew, recounting his golf game. I went to the restroom. When I returned, he was gone. My wife then said, "Oh, Ken passed away earlier this week. I had just been talking to him. How could that be?" His son confirmed his dad had passed the prior Tuesday. I kept quiet about our conversation from 3 days after his death. His son mentioned Ken loved an audience. Then I shared how sharp Ken was, remembering every golf game. His son looked puzzled. "Golf game?" he said. "Dad hasn't played golf in at least 10 years. He explained he'd pick Ken up each Thursday, go to the cemetery to visit Ken's wife's grave, then lunch and groceries, about 4 or 5 hours. Ken never mentioned any of those activities. The golf stories, the play-by-play, had to be past experiences. It's haunting how real it felt. I worked in intensive care for 12 years, and I saw strange things. We once had 4 patients in a row lose critical lines, tubes, spontaneously pulling out with no one nearby. More chillingly, some patients saw a little boy in red pajamas. Whenever they reported seeing him, that patient would die soon after. I had one patient, a stroke victim receiving comfort care, who saw him. Throughout the night, she had periods of fear. During one such moment, she said, "Watch out for Bruce." Bruce was my father's name. This woman knew nothing about me. I asked who Bruce was, and she laughed. "You know him. You look just like him." Chills ran down my spine. She was right. Watch out for him. Make sure he doesn't fall. Then she slept. A little later, she saw the boy in red. She described him. About 2 or so, blonde, wearing red pajamas. He comes to the door and just stares at me. He doesn't come inside. She died later that day. We had superstitions. Tie a knot in a bedsheet, and they'd last your shift. Or, if a patient's passing was prolonged, open doors or windows to guide their spirit. We even asked the chaplain to cleanse rooms after 3 consecutive deaths, which almost always ended the cycle. The most disturbing sight was a truly awful old woman. Mean, abusive. No family ever visited. One night, she arrested. On the vent, she was awake, terrified, looking up at nothing, shaking her head no emphatically, shielding herself, trying to scream. She had another arrest and died. We later learned she had abused her sons their entire lives. Both had cut off contact. Whether you believe in hell or not, it seemed she was going somewhere she didn't want to be. Have you ever felt a loved one's presence after they've passed? It seems these presences can be comforting, or they can be profoundly unsettling. At an assisted living facility, a resident, very spiritual and sharp, came to me one night. She looked me in the eyes and said, "Lee has the death angel lurking around him." I was shocked and scared, but she assured me this angel was peaceful, here to help people cross. 2 days later, Lee wasn't with us anymore. I've had 2 unexplainable experiences in my life, years apart. The first, as a 6-year-old, in a mirror reflection, I saw a woman. Not my mom, not anyone I knew. Old, tattered clothes, pale, with an unreadable face, just standing there. I felt her presence, a shift in the air. I looked away, then back. She was gone. My stomach dropped. Years later, about a decade ago, one late night at 4 a.m., unable to sleep, I felt a soft, deliberate caress against my back. I turned. A shadowy figure hovered before my window. Not solid, a form of darkness, shifting at the edges. It drifted backward, through the glass. Silently. No terror came. Only an overwhelming wave of grief, a deep, aching sadness. I thought of my aunt, who passed when I was 8 like a second mother. I later realized it was close to her death anniversary. Was it her, checking on me? Or something unknowable, borrowing the shape of what we miss? I have no answers. About a month after my mom passed, while helping my sister clean her house, her old clock radio, broken for years, suddenly clicked on. No static, just a few seconds of a song she'd hum while cooking, "You Are My Sunshine." It faded after the first line, then shut off. Neither of us spoke. Then my sister simply muttered, "Okay, Mom," and continued sorting. We never discussed it again, but we knew what we heard. My dad's a truck driver. 6 years ago, during my freshman year of high school, I went on a trip with him. Second night on the road, up a steep incline, we saw an orange glow. A woman suddenly ran out into our headlights, waving and screaming, "My baby is still in the car!" My dad stopped. We jumped out and ran. The car was wrapped around a tree, fully engulfed in flames. No way to save the baby. As my dad called 911, I realized the woman was gone. Less than an hour later, fire trucks arrived. They found the remains of 2 people. I'm convinced the woman was a ghost. I believe when the baby perished, they were reunited, which is why she disappeared. She had no reason to stay. This theory, shared by a friend years later, brings some comfort. But the trauma of that night, the smell of burning rubber, still haunts me. When I was 13, I woke up in the middle of the night, standing at my dresser mirror, my reflection repeating, "The gift is coming, the gift is coming." My voice flat, emotionless. I talked in my sleep, but never walked. I shrugged it off. A couple of days later, my friends brought a Ouija board. It spelled random letters for them, but when they asked about me, it spelled out gift. Gift. My stomach tightened. I hadn't told anyone about the mirror or the words I'd spoken. It sent unshakable unease through me. I just said, "Oh," it felt personal, something I shouldn't share. I'm 53 now. I only told this story a year ago. I don't know if I ever received the gift. Maybe I already have it. My dad worked a summer job at Yellowstone in the early 82nd. One night, camping in an old Indian pit, he woke up to use the bathroom. As he crawled out, he felt a hand on his shoulder pull him backward. He turned on his flashlight, nobody there. He then saw his next steps would have led him directly off a steep cliff. The next morning, His friend Mark said he woke up and swore an Indian man was standing outside their tent. Whatever happened, my dad is alive, met my mom in Yellowstone, and here I am. My father died suddenly in 1979. His routine: 5 a.m., get dressed, walk through the living room to the kitchen, pull out his chair, a slight scrape, and plug in the coffee pot. After the funeral, I stayed in the back bedroom. The first time, at 5 a.m., I woke feeling someone in the house. I crept out, but there was no one. I searched. Nothing. 3 nights later, at 5 a.m., I heard footsteps, then the swinging kitchen doors. I snuck down, flipped the light, nothing. This went on. Then it took a horrific turn. I heard the chair scrape and the smell of coffee filled the air. I could even hear the pot brewing. I just lay there, terrified. After minutes, silence. This went on for 3 more nights. I called a friend to stay. The next morning, he woke me just after 5, whispering, "There's someone in the house." We heard the footsteps, the scrape, the strong coffee smell. He followed me. I turned on the light, nothing. He bolted. After 2 more days, I walked into the kitchen, stood in the middle, and shouted, "Dad, you can't keep doing this. You're dead. I love you and miss you, but please go away. Go wherever you're supposed to go." I broke down crying. The visit stopped. I've wondered if sudden death means you don't realize you're gone. Do you try to carry on? Do you need to be told? I don't know, but I know what I experienced. I'm a preschool teacher. A few months ago, a new student, Leon, enrolled. His mother, Sasha, and Uncle Angelo were his guardians, both young, working hard for a better future. Last month, Leon was absent for a week. His mom called, distraught. That Friday, after school, Angelo appeared at my classroom window. I went out to greet him, asking if Leon was okay. He smiled, said everything would be all right, and Leon would be in class Monday. I was so relieved. The weekend passed. Monday, Leon was in class, somber. Midday, with friends, he perked up. I asked how he felt. With a sigh, he said, "Tio's gone." Tio means uncle. I said I was sorry. Later that afternoon, Sasha came to pick up Leon with a friend who explained Angelo had unalived himself last Monday, jumping from a hotel roof. The cops came to Sasha's door to identify the body. I was in disbelief. I stammered, "I just saw him on Friday." Tears filled my eyes as I accepted the news. I couldn't break down in front of Leon. I put my hand on Sasha's shoulder. We looked at each other, and they left. The world is dark, and it only becomes more opaque the longer you look. We were traveling in Fiji on a tight budget and found a hostel significantly cheaper. The man at reception looked surprised. No other guests, no noise. It was deserted. Fast asleep, my boyfriend and I suddenly woke to the most terrible scream, like it was in the walls. Painful, scared to death. It lasted long enough to be undeniable, then stopped. I was terrified. The next morning, the place felt creepy, even in daylight. We packed up, left, and booked another hotel. The travel agent asked where we'd been. We told her. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. She said there had been a horrific murder the previous summer. 3 women killed. Everyone said it was haunted, and no one stayed there. It explained the price. This was 15 years ago, but my travel diary confirms. Our hostel had been the scene of a horrific murder. The night before, a horrific scream had woken me despite wearing earplugs. Very scary. These moments blur the lines between grief, memory, and the supernatural, making us question what we truly know about life and what lies beyond. While some presences offer solace or cryptic warnings, others bring an unsettling sense of threat. actively trying to disrupt your reality? What if the ghosts aren't just shadows, but active participants in your life, capable of physical harm or bending reality to their will? So far, we've journeyed through the subtle shifts, the lingering presences, the quiet whispers from beyond that hint at another realm brushing against our own. But sometimes, the veil thins, and what lies on the other side doesn't just observe. It interacts. It pushes. It threatens. These are the unsettling tales, where the unseen world reaches out, grabs hold, and demands to be acknowledged, often with terrifying and deeply disorienting consequences. Are you ready to face a reality where the impossible isn't just seen, but felt? Imagine a seemingly ordinary evening, the kind of peaceful late-night stroll you crave after a long, exhausting day. You're walking a familiar bike path through the woods with a friend, absorbed in an easy conversation, the calming rustle of leaves your only company. Suddenly, a chilling, guttural expulsion of air erupts right beside your friend's ear, a sound so violent and unnatural, it stops you dead in your tracks. Before you can even process the sound, your friend screams, face planting onto the hard cement with an audible smack. Confusion wars with alarm as they scramble up, accusing you, "Why did you push me?" But you were meters ahead, well out of reach. There was no one there. Yet, an invisible force, a loud, ragged breath, and then a shove so powerful it left undeniable, dark bruises on their back. What kind of entity leaves physical marks without a visible form? We booked it back to the main road, taking an extra hour to avoid that path through the woods, forever scarred by the inexplicable violence of the unseen. Now, picture this unsettling scene. An ancient reading room, a building at least 3 centuries old, nestled in a quiet village. It's late, and the building should be securely shut, empty. Yet, as you approach, you clearly hear it, a cacophony of voices, the echo of lively laughter, the distinct clatter of a game in full swing. Curiosity, mixed with a creeping sense of puzzlement, pulls you closer. You try the gate, then the door, both locked tight. You walk around to a side window, peer through the glass, and freeze. The room is completely dark, utterly deserted. The sounds vanish as if a switch was flipped. Your heart pounds in your chest, trying to reconcile what you just heard with the eerie emptiness before you. And then, as you stand there, trying desperately to make sense of the impossible, you hear it again. A low, chilling, unmistakably sinister laugh echoes from within the darkened room. Pure, unadulterated evil. No one is there. What kind of entity plays such cruel auditory tricks, then mocks your fear with a laugh that promises nightmares? This isn't a mere echo. It's a performance designed to terrify. Or consider this mind-bending encounter a true challenge to the very fabric of reality. A lonely, winding mountain road, deep in the night. You and your friend are driving, miles from anywhere, when suddenly, rounding a sharp bend, you see it. Your exact car, the same distinct vintage model, the same aftermarket hubcaps, even the mismatched door. And inside, you and your friend. Perfect doppelgangers, staring back at you as they pass. It's a fleeting glimpse, but utterly unmistakable. Adrenaline surges through you, mixed with a profound sense of what just happened. You spin your car around as quickly as possible, tires screeching on the narrow road, desperate to catch up, to understand this impossible sight. But they're gone, vanished into the inky blackness. What reality did you just glimpse? Was it a warning, a ripple from another dimension, or something far more personal and terrifying? The experience leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew about time and space. Other times, the shift from subtle to terrifying is almost instantaneous, a rapid descent into chaos. Imagine moving into a new rental apartment only for your electrical devices, the wall clock, the refrigerator, the television, to randomly and inexplicably cease working, even in broad daylight. You call an electrician, but they find no faulty wiring, no explanation. This is just the beginning. One evening, you step out of the shower to a horrifying sight: fire erupting from the gas regulator on your stove. The next day, your ceiling fan detaches from the ceiling and crashes to the floor with a terrifying sound, narrowly missing you. And then, the direct, terrifying encounters begin. You go to switch off the lights, turn back, and standing in the dark is a shadow of a man. A solid, terrifying silhouette. You're dumbfounded, paralyzed by fear, but somehow you run through the shadow, only to fall physically ill with a fever, fainting spells, and an unexplainable sickness that no doctor can diagnose. This wasn't a slow build, it was an aggressive, persistent assault on your reality, leaving you physically and mentally drained. The entity actively sought to disrupt, to harm, to possess your space. How would you explain such a relentless series of bizarre, harmful events that directly impact your health and safety? And finally, what about the places specifically designed to house the departed? A hospital morgue, for instance. You're a night janitor, a job that requires a strong stomach and a detached perspective. Most ghosts are harmless, you're told. But then, last week, an incident truly shook you. A recent motorcycle accident victim's body lies on a table, partially uncovered, one eye staring blankly at you. You instinctively recover him. A minute later, the sheet has fallen halfway down his face again, and his head is turned to the side, that single exposed eye staring directly at you. There's no draft, no fan, nothing that could have moved that sheet. You pull it back over him a second time, a wave of primal fear sending you running out of the room like a terrified child. You try to rationalize it later. Tell yourself it was just the body settling, a trick of the light, your own imagination. But the next night, back in the morgue, you hear it again, a soft, metallic, scratching sound. It's coming from inside one of the freezer drawers, those cold metal cubicles where bodies are stored. You follow the sound, every fiber of your being screaming, "No," until you find the source. As soon as the door slides open, the noise immediately stops. You pull out the body, just to peek at his face, and have to stifle a scream when you see an exposed hand resting atop the white sheet. Most of its flesh is gone, leaving nothing but bone, perfect for making that scratching sound. It's him, the motorcycle victim. You quickly put everything back, flee, and the scratching resumes as you exit. This isn't just residual energy. It's an active, persistent, and utterly chilling presence, demanding attention. Could you keep working in a place where the dead refuse to lie still, where they actively try to communicate, or perhaps to harm? These unsettling encounters, from inexplicable pushes to objects with a mind of their own, are unnerving, disruptive, and sometimes outright threatening. They force us to reconsider what we thought possible. But some experiences go beyond the bizarre, fundamentally reshaping who you are, pushing you to your psychological limits, and forcing a confrontation not just with the unknown, but with your own limits, your sanity, and your very will to survive. These are the stories of profound horror, trauma, choice, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. From inexplicable pushes to objects with a mind of their own, these encounters are unnerving. But some experiences go beyond the bizarre, fundamentally reshaping who you are. Some horrors aren't just external. They burrow into your mind, forcing you to question everything you thought was real. What happens when survival means confronting the darkest parts of yourself or the world? This next account is less about what was seen and more about what was felt. A claustrophobic nightmare that pushed two people to their absolute limits, trapped in a space smaller than a coffin, fighting for every breath. You know how hotels often have connecting doors between rooms? Well, imagine one of those doors. Only this one, in this specific hotel, had been sealed off from the other side with a solid concrete wall. We joked about it, pushed each other playfully into the narrow space between the two doors. But then, on a whim, I stepped in with my girlfriend, and in an instant, the door clicked shut behind us. The sound of that airtight seal, the sudden, absolute blackness, was terrifying. My hand was still on the handle, but it was useless. The door auto-locked, only opening from the outside. We were stuck, crammed into a 6-inch door jamb, feet sideways, faces pressed against the cold, hard surface. My girlfriend panicked immediately. "Don't panic," I urged, trying to sound calm, though my own heart was hammering. Within a minute, we could feel the condensation, the air growing thick, heavy, already dripping off the walls. We screamed until our throats were raw, hammered on the door until our fists ached, but the hotel was mostly empty, miles from other guests. No phones, no signal. 30 minutes of pure, unadulterated terror. Could you imagine that despair? Knowing your air is dwindling, hearing the frantic gasps of the person next to you, with no way out? We managed to find a shaky Wi-Fi connection on her phone, downloaded a calling app, used a credit card to buy credit, and finally, mercifully, reached a neighboring hotel who alerted ours. After over an hour, the door finally burst open, revealing the entire housekeeping staff. We collapsed, soaked in sweat, the door dripping from our desperate breaths. And they laughed. They laughed. The next day, every staff member wore a sly smirk. If we had died in that door jam, our bodies, covered in sweat and condensation, would likely still be there, silently telling a tale of horror. But what if the danger isn't confined to a tight space, but stalks you in the wide open, blurring the lines between the mundane and the monstrous? A few hours before writing this, I was walking my dog, Scoot, at night. I had my AirPods in, running a Spirit Box app, mostly just random words and static, but then, a clear man's voice cut through. "I'm over here." Then, left, closer. Scoot, usually an eager explorer, suddenly stopped, trembling, growling, pulling me backward. I took out an earphone, and the app logged, "Don't go." That's when I saw him, camouflaged at the bottom of the hill, emerging from the trees. A man with hands in his pockets, a smile, and teeth filed down to shiny points. Demonic, I thought. I didn't know how he did it, but this man had somehow hacked my app, communicating with me through it. Scoot and I booked it, but it didn't end there. As I drove home, a putrid smell filled my car, a growling sound emanating from my back seat. I pulled over, terrified, only to find my future husband, Lee, passed out and puking in my car. But the true horror came moments later, parked on a dark highway, when a man in a straw hat with an unsettling grin tapped on my window, then vanished into thin air, only to reappear moments later as a towering and monstrous black dog in my headlights, staring at us. My father, a seasoned truck driver, also experienced something similar. Descending a snowy mountain pass in Idaho, he felt an unseen presence watching him. Then, a massive figure, appearing like a Sasquatch, leapt across a 20-foot embankment. He's convinced it was a demon trying to make him crash. These weren't mere unsettling encounters. They were mind-bending, reality-altering events that left permanent scars, forcing us to question what exactly shares our world. Could you have outrun that terror? And sometimes, The trauma isn't a sudden violent event, but a slow, creeping realization of a hidden horror, a truth revealed by an echo from beyond. My freshman year dorm room was everything I'd hoped for until my bubbly roommate, Madison, died in what was ruled a freak accident. Her side of the room, stripped bare, became a hollow space. Then the whispers started. Emily. Quiet sobbing. Faint laughter from the hall. The creaking of her empty bed. I tried to rationalize it as grief, but when the vivid nightmares began, Madison at the foot of my bed, glassy-eyed, distorted, I knew it was more. Desperate, I Googled her name. What I found was a local blog post. Rumors of Madison's real death. Not on the street, but inside the frat house, from alcohol poisoning. They'd panicked, moved her body, and staged the scene. The whispers, the crying, the dreams, it wasn't grief. Madison wasn't just haunting the room. She was trying to tell me something. I whispered, I know what they did, and I'm sorry. The room fell silent. My actions led to an investigation, the frat being shut down, and arrests made. The truth came out. I chose to stay in that room. The haunting ceased. It was just a room again, filled with memories. This was a direct call for justice from the other side, and a choice I made that fundamentally altered my life and the lives of those responsible. But imagine a horror so profound, so deeply ingrained, that it leaves an indelible mark on your psyche, shaping your entire future. My mother, a hairstylist in Texas City, once endured a bus ride that gave her PTSD for life. She'd take the bus to work daily, a quiet, peaceful commute. Until one morning, a man named Hooper sat beside her. He pressed a finger to his lips. "Shh," he whispered, then opened his denim jacket to reveal 2 grenades. "God wants me to blow up this bus," he calmly stated, urging her to wait until they reached First Street 4 stops away. Trapped against the window, watching people come and go, my mother suffered a panic attack. Convinced her heart would explode before the bus did, with a surge of desperate strength, she screamed for help. Hooper reacted, grabbing her head, bouncing it against the window. But the attention drawn was enough. A man on the bus pulled out a handgun. A single shot, a boom that rang in her ears, and Hooper's body crumpled. The grenades, duds, didn't explode. But the memory, in 4 Kelvin Ultra HD, plays on. My mother's career path changed that day, forever haunted by the malevolent stranger and the split-second decision that saved them all. How do you ever truly recover from a terror like that? These harrowing experiences, whether a brush with death, a confrontation with the unimaginable, or the discovery of a hidden truth, burrow deep into the mind. They reshape our understanding of reality, forcing choices under duress and leaving lasting scars. Having faced these profound trials, some find closure, but for others, the unseen world leaves an indelible mark, leading to a continuous journey of discovery and fear. What if the stories never truly end, and the hauntings are just beginning? Some mysteries linger, shaping lives long after the initial encounter. Are you ready to hear what's still out there? We've journeyed through moments of sudden terror and profound trauma, witnessing how the inexplicable can shatter our reality. But for some, the unseen world doesn't just pass through. It stubbornly remains, leaving an indelible imprint that echoes through their lives, forcing a reevaluation of everything they once believed. Consider the unsettling case of Sammy and Babby, the blue stuffed cat. When Sammy, a 5-year-old, moved in with his stepfamily, his constant, whispered conversations with Babby were concerning enough. But then, an older woman's voice began to answer, and Sammy started following Babby's lead, even trying to walk into the woods, completely oblivious to his family's frantic calls. His doctor called it sleepwalking, but Sammy insisted Babby was mad when their trip was interrupted. and even claimed Babby wanted to hurt his stepsister. The new locks on the door, the whispering, the eventual desperate act of the father burning the cat to stop the influence, this story reveals a persistent entity that not only remained but actively influenced a child, a chilling phantom cat, leading a young mind astray, leaving a haunting question about the true nature of Sammy's companion. For another, the haunting wasn't tied to an object or a child, but to their very home. For 3 months, the narrator had been seeing shadow figures fleeting at first, then more distinct, often in the reflection of their large television, or a phantom cat brushing their legs. It was unsettling enough to make them question their sanity, seeking medical care. But the true imprint came when they finally confessed to their wife. Her reaction wasn't fear of him, but a shared shock. She too had experienced the phantom cat during a friend's visit, an incident Jess had dismissed. Now, the shadow figures are a shared reality, and while the narrator is relieved not to be crazy, the wife's escalating paranoia from crystals to crosses, demanding to know where it is, shows how deeply these persistent shadow figures can burrow into the sanctity of a home, transforming comfort into a landscape of constant vigilance. What would you do if your own home, your sanctuary, suddenly became a stage for such unnerving shared experiences? Some lingering mysteries are intrinsically linked to tragic pasts. Take the house flipper, accustomed to the bad juju of murder homes. But this latest project, where a mother drowned her youngest and stabbed her elder child before taking her own life, felt different. First, a ring holder hit her with unnatural force. Then doors slammed shut with violent intent. A specific child's room was inexplicably colder. The climax came with footsteps in an empty room, a dizzying sickness, and finally, objects crashing in the living room, and a hallway door opening and slamming repeatedly. As she fled, a chilling shadow stood in the window, watching her leave. The house stubbornly holds on to its victims, its sorrow, its terror. The imprint is so strong that even a seasoned professional, driven by profit, now dreads returning alone, fearing what malevolent truth still resides within those walls. Then there's the story of a hospital cook and the janitor who worshipped rats, where a lingering malevolence took root. Initially, it was just missing items and misplaced tools in the dim, empty kitchen, a mere annoyance. But as the narrator confided in a coworker, the activity escalated. The janitor, a peculiar man obsessed with rats, seemed connected. He'd chant in Latin, and a chilling shadow would manifest, often preceding patient deaths, draining life from them. This wasn't just unseen activity, it was a malevolent force, seemingly influenced by the janitor, causing physical pain and even life-threatening ailments, like the doctor's sudden kidney stones. The fear, the escalating violence, and the ultimate decision to quit this left an enduring imprint of terror, a profound re-evaluation of what evil truly is and how it can manifest in everyday spaces. Sometimes, the lingering mystery is about what you don't see, but feel. In a deserted Virginia Beach park at dusk, a young couple saw an old-fashioned girl with a red ball, unmoving, then a wild-eyed man blocking their path. They sped away, only to see him running after them in their rearview mirror before he vanished. The encounter was ambiguous, profoundly unsettling, and left such an enduring imprint that they never returned to that park, forever marked by the unnerving figures that appeared and disappeared, leaving behind only questions and a lingering sense of dread. These stories, spanning from chilling domestic encounters to profound personal traumas and the unsettling presences in public spaces, all carry a common thread. The enduring imprint of the inexplicable. They challenge our understanding of reality, forcing us to ask, what truly remains when life ends? Are these echoes, memories, or active presences? How do these experiences fundamentally reshape the individuals who live through them? And what would you do if such a mystery lingered in your own life? We invite you to share your experiences in the comments below. Have you encountered something that left an indelible mark? A mystery that stubbornly refuses to be solved? Tell us your story, and let's continue to explore the enduring presence of the unknown together. If you're still awake, thank you for braving the dark with us tonight on Midnight Whispers. If these stories stirred something in you, a chill, a memory, a shadow, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more true horrors, and ring the bell so you never miss a whisper from the night. Sleep tight, if you can.